Hey everyone, and welcome to a deep dive on something I think you're going to find really interesting. We're talking all about decentralized identity and how it goes way beyond just cryptocurrency and blockchain. We've got a really cool article to help us unpack all of this. It's called Verifiable Credentials, VC, Decentralized Identity Blockchain by Marta Maria Moga. It was just published on December 11th, 2024, so it's hot off the presses. And get this, it even talks about universities issuing diplomas on the blockchain and Microsoft using this tech for employee credentials. Man, how wild is that? By the end of this deep dive, you'll not only know what verifiable credentials are, but you'll also see how they could actually change your life.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing. This stuff is already happening.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. What does decentralized identity even mean? Is it like becoming a digital nomad, but for your data?
Uh-huh. I like that image. But it's more about taking back control of your data. You know how companies and governments have tons of our information? Well, decentralized identity puts YU in the driver's seat and uses blockchain as the engine.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it. So instead of like Facebook knowing everything I do online, or the DMV having my entire driving record, I would have more say in who gets to see what.
Exactly. The article compares it to your driver's license. Think about it. When you need to prove you're over 21, you have to hand over your entire license, revealing way more than just your age.
That's true. I hate doing that.
Right. With a decentralized system, you could just share a verified credential that proves you're old enough and nothing else.
So that's where verifiable credentials or VCs come in. They're like the tools that make decentralized identity actually work.
Exactly. A verifiable credential is basically a digital proof that can be independently verified because of the blockchain. Think of it like a digital certificate for anything from your education to your work experience, even your right to vote.
Wow. The article mentions some pretty wild examples of how VCs are already being used. Like MIT is issuing diplomas on the blockchain, no more waiting weeks for transcripts. And Microsoft is using VCs for employee credentials. Is that like a super trustworthy LinkedIn profile?
You could say that. It's more secure because the information is verified directly by the issuer, so someone can't just lie about their skills or experience. Plus, think about all the time and paperwork we waste now verifying credentials the old way. VCs could streamline all of that.
It's kind of crazy to think about. And it's not just big institutions using this tech, right? The article talks about Gitcoin Passport, which is used to make sure that only real people, not bots, are contributing to projects. That's huge in the world of decentralized funding.
Totally. Imagine trying to launch a project and knowing that every vote or donation is from an actual person. That's what Gitcoin Passport brings to the table. There's also Bright ID, which uses VCs for authentication without giving up your privacy.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this could affect us every day. And it can even help people who aren't as tech savvy. The article mentions a project called ID 2020 that uses VCs to give refugees and undocumented people verifiable digital identities.
Yeah, that's really powerful stuff. Imagine if everyone, regardless of their background, had a secure digital identity. It could revolutionize access to things like healthcare and financial services.
That would be incredible. So it sounds like VCs have the potential to really change things for the better. But what about the downsides? The article says some people are hesitant about this whole thing. Are they right to be worried?
Well, one thing that often trips people up is the connection between blockchain and cryptocurrency. People hear blockchain and think about risky investments in volatile markets. But remember, blockchain is just the technology behind all of this. VCs aren't a cryptocurrency.
Right. And I bet people are worried about their privacy too. But the article actually says that VCs can enhance privacy, which seems a little counterintuitive.
It all comes down to control. With VCs, you choose what information to share and nothing more. No more giving away your whole driver's license just to prove you're old enough to buy a drink.
Makes sense. But what if only a few places are using VCs? Is it really going to make a difference?
That's a valid point. But think about it. Remember how long it took the internet to become what it is today? Once it caught on, it changed everything. The same thing could happen with VCs.
I'm starting to see how big of a deal this could be, but it feels like we're just scratching the surface here.
Oh, absolutely.
Wait.
There's a lot more to unpack. Like, are there downsides we need to be aware of? And how do we make sure this technology is used ethically and responsibly? We'll dive into all of that in the next part of our deep dive.
Wow, my mind is buzzing after all that talk about VCs. It's crazy to think about how this could change how we think about trust online. Like, isn't the internet built on anonymity and skepticism?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Think about how we build trust offline. We rely on things like physical documents, background checks, recommendations from people we know. But
Mm.
online, it's a totally different story. It's hard to know who you're actually dealing with.
Yeah.
VCs could change that. They could bring that same level of trust to the internet.
So instead of just blindly trusting a website or a profile, you could ask for a VC that proves they are who they say they are, like a digital stamp of approval.
Exactly. And because these credentials are based on blockchain technology, they're really hard to fake or change. It could be huge for online marketplaces, professional networking, all kinds of things.
Yeah, that would cut down on scams for sure. But what about the other side of the coin? Could VCs be used for bad stuff too?
That's a valid concern. Any powerful technology can be misused. One worry is that this shift could leave some people behind. What about people who don't have access to technology or don't know how to use it? We have to make sure this doesn't create a new digital divide.
I see your point. And who's really in control here? The article talks about decentralization, but someone has to be making and checking these VCs, right?
Those are great questions. This is where things like governance and standards come in. We need clear rules and guidelines to make sure VCs are issued and verified in a transparent way. We need accountability.
So it's not just about the tech, it's about the social and ethical implications too. Are we really ready for this kind of change?
That's the big question, isn't it? We need to have these tough conversations and include everyone in them. Policymakers, tech experts, everyday users.
It sounds like a lot to figure out. Okay, let's go back to some of the examples from the article. Anything that really stood out to you?
You know what really caught my attention? The potential of VCs in education. Imagine students easily sharing their accomplishments with employers or universities without the hassle of transcripts and diplomas.
And no more fake diplomas. If it's on the blockchain, it has to be real.
Exactly. And it's not just diplomas. What if students earned VCs for specific skills they've learned? It would be a much better way to show what they could do.
Instead of just a degree in computer science, you could have a VC for knowing Python or a certain type of software. That would be amazing for job hunting.
And professional development, too. Imagine getting VCs for online courses or workshops. You'd have a record of your skills that is always up to date and verified.
Wow, that's cool. This could apply to so many fields. Healthcare professionals keeping their certifications up to date, artists showcasing their work. VCs would be a much better way to prove your expertise.
The possibilities are endless. And that's why it's so important to stay informed about VCs. This isn't just some niche tech thing. It could change every part of our lives.
I'm definitely on board with learning more, but I know new technology can sometimes have unexpected consequences. What should we be watching out for as VCs evolve?
You're right to be cautious. We have to be aware of the risks, even though the potential is exciting.
Like what kind of risks?
Well, one concern is data security. Blockchain is very secure. But the systems built on top of it might not be. We need to make sure the platforms handling our VCs are strong enough to withstand attacks.
So it's like having a great lock on your door but leaving a window open.
Exactly. We also need to watch out for centralization creeping back in. The whole point is to give individuals control. But if a few big companies end up controlling VCs, we haven't really solved anything.
So we need to be careful and make sure VCs are empowering individuals, not just big companies.
That's why public awareness and education are so crucial. The more people understand this technology and what's at stake, the better we can shape how it develops.
Knowledge is power, for sure. I'm still absorbing all of this. What's the most important thing for our listeners to take away?
The key takeaway, I think, is that verifiable credentials are more than just new technology. They represent a whole new way of thinking about trust, identity, and power online.
And that's a conversation we all need to be part of. We've covered a lot today, but there's still more to explore. In the last part of our deep dive, we're going to look at what the future might hold for VCs. Will they become the new standard? Or will they stay a niche thing?
We'll explore the predictions and possibilities, and maybe even make some predictions of our own. Stay tuned.
Okay, so we're back and ready to talk about the future of verifiable credentials. We've talked about what they are, how they work, why they matter. Now let's put on our futurist hats and see what might be coming next.
You know what's really cool? The future of VCs isn't set in stone. The choices we make today will shape how this tech evolves.
No pressure then, right? We're holding the fate of the internet in our hands. But really, where do you see VCs going? The article is optimistic, but what's your take?
Well, I think we can all agree that VCs are going to play a bigger role in our digital lives. The question is, how fast will they go mainstream? And how will people use them?
Right, because now it feels like only tech people are using them. Will everyone be carrying around digital wallets full of VCs in a few years?
It's totally possible. Imagine proving your identity, your qualifications, your health records, all with a few taps on your phone. It could revolutionize how we deal with businesses, governments, even each other.
Okay, I'm ready for this. Paint me a picture. What would a normal day look like in a world run by VCs?
All right, picture this. You wake up and use your VC to unlock your house. You can adjust the temperature, start the coffee maker, all from your phone.
No more searching for keys or remembering passwords. I like this already.
Right. Later, you need to pick up a prescription. Instead of waiting at the pharmacy, you use your VC to share only the info the pharmacist needs. They verify your prescription, and it's delivered to you.
And I wouldn't have to share my whole medical history, just what's needed for that one prescription. I'm seeing the appeal here.
Then you decide to go to a concert that night. No printed tickets, no QR codes. You just use your VC to confirm your identity and walk right in. Easy, secure, and you're in control the whole time.
That sounds amazing, but let's be realistic. There have to be some downsides, right? What are some challenges for VCs to overcome before everyone's using them?
One big challenge is making sure all these VC systems can talk to each other. Right now, there are tons of platforms and protocols. We need to figure out how to make them all work together so people can easily share their credentials anywhere.
Is it like the early days of the internet, when websites all had different formats and you needed special software?
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
We need a universal translator for VCs. Another challenge is getting people to actually use them. People are always hesitant about new tech, especially when it's about their identity.
Plus, there's so much confusion around VCs. People might mix them up with cryptocurrency or worry about privacy and security.
Exactly. That's why education is so important. We have to clearly explain how VCs work, what the benefits are, and how they can give people more control.
And we need to address those privacy and security fears head on. If people don't trust the technology, they won't use it.
Absolutely. And then there's regulation. Governments need to create rules for how VCs are used to make sure they're not being used for the wrong reasons.
It sounds like we have a lot of work to do on the tech side and in terms of getting people on board, but the potential is huge if we can get past these hurdles.
It really is a whole new way of thinking about things. Imagine a world where online interactions are as trustworthy and secure as offline ones. It could lead to so much innovation and a more fair and inclusive digital world.
Well, that brings our deep dive on verifiable credentials to an end. I hope you all learned something new and interesting today.
The main thing to remember is this. VCs are more than just a cool tech thing. They can empower people and change the digital world as we know it.
So next time you hear about blockchain or decentralized identity, don't tune it out. Learn more, ask questions, and think about how it affects you.
Maybe you'll even be inspired to create your own VC. The future is what we make it.
That's a great point. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into the world of tech. Until then, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep asking questions.